Well, it's been a long time, but I'm excited today to be able to bring another YouTube video back to the channel. It's about a knife that I haven't seen yet, but a first impression of Spyderco Phil Wilson. I haven't seen this knife, but I wanted to show you the knife real quick, and so you could get my initial impression, and I could save that. And then I wanted to do just a few comparisons with some classics and maybe some other knives that you guys are more familiar with carrying, some tactical type folders and such. Let me get this box open. Nice Spyderco lock up on the box, extra tight. I would say 100%, no wiggle in any direction. You know how important that is. Knife 1, box 0. Alright, after that little bit of fidgetiness, let's get to this here. What is it? Spyderco warranty information. Nice. Take a quick look at this. I believe that looks like, if it's anything like my Street Beat sheath, it's probably a reasonable sheath. But there, won't want to talk about that too much, but that's going to be a nice sheath for most people. And here's the knife itself. Oh my gosh, I've been waiting to see this for probably about 10 weeks or so. This is a Phil Wilson Spyderco collaboration. And you know what got me fired up so much for this knife was one of my buddies, one of all of our buddies, I'm sure, on the whoever's part of a certain forum for blades. He does some independent examination and personal cutting information and lists that for everybody and tries to use a very specific format, and has found that this steel has given him the best factory results in his slicing test as far as grind, geometry, and edge geometry, and edge capability rather, because he sharpens all of them. I'm talking about Mr. Jim Jankerson in the forums. Oh man, I'm just admiring this a little bit, but I'd like to quickly get to some comparisons of the other blades, because I already see some similarities with some real old school classics in my collection right here. I'm having this go out of focus when I go down here because I'm on macro mode, but I'm going to pull some of these other knives out of here. Some real quick comparisons. Yeah, you might be familiar with two of these. You know what, let's turn them right side up so you know what the hell I'm talking about. Cold steel Outdoorsman Light, and the full-size version looks very similar to that, just thicker stock steel handle parts. Spyderco Phil Wilson we just got in, and the Buck Special 119. These are all very classic outdoor knives. I don't think that anybody can really smear any one of these knives too bad because of the trailing point, the hollow grinds on these two out here. Real drastic similarities between these two out here, which I could cover in another video all its own, but I think that this one shares some characteristics of that, in that it's more of a hunter-skinner outdoor type knife as well. We get some other stuff in here. Obviously the Phil Wilson is, I don't know if it's thinner than the Outdoorsman Light. In fact, I doubt it is. I mean, obviously it has a much better taper and a much finer grind to it. You know, this is a $20 knife right here, and this Phil Wilson is not cheap, and that's because of the blade material, not necessarily because any of the grinding or tooling difficulty, other than the fact that it takes higher abrasive and more time. It does equal more cost, because this one is not 20 bucks. This one right here is about $40 to $50 most of your big box stores, and this is Buck's 420 HC. Couldn't be easier to sharpen this knife right here. As for this one, I'm not sure, and obviously the Outdoorsman Light with the Krupp surgical stainless that from Germany, it sharpens well also, but the edge holding on these knives is supposedly rather not inferior, but more short-lived than the CPM. Can't even get it to do it on the macro. CPM S90V Taichung Taiwan heat treat capability. Let me get it for similar knives. A Marbles Plainsman, which is not their famous ideal design, but one that's very similar. I tried to carry this knife a long time ago, EDC, for food and fish and outdoors, and I just don't like this big metal hunk of crap on the end of it. Obviously, the Phil Wilson has much more class in my opinion, being that my opinion only. It's a very time-tested high-carbon design. This one actually questionable whether it was made in the United States or not, but I believe it was. It's very high-quality grind on that one. A lot of time spent doing these knives like this, and this one, before they were totally discontinued forever, Marbles went out of business, ran about $100. A Cold Steel Pendleton Light Hunter, just really for size comparison, because they're, while this one is a very nice utility everyday knife, you wouldn't be upset if you lost that knife. It's going to be at or under $20. Not so with this one. This is for a much more dedicated knife carrier, somebody that doesn't lay their stuff around, and someone who takes real good care of their things, obviously. I'm going to lay it all out right now, all the ones that I had left, and we're going to go top to bottom after I'm done cutting myself with them. Ouch. Alright, so what we got here, real nice size comparison. SOG Northwest Ranger. When I first got this knife, I was really impressed with the Northwest Ranger, around $60, $65. I was really impressed with the not the jimping, because I hate that for making sheaths for it. But I was impressed at the grind on this knife, and it's AUS 8A Japanese stainless steel, which Cold Steel is famous for using, as well as the SOG company has a lot of it within their line, not so much of the high carbon of days past. But the guard piece right here is really nice, especially for the sheath making. And then the craton handle obviously is very grippy, and the shape is not too cumbersome. I do like a thinner grip, and that's just mainly for carry, because in use, prolonged periods, people talk about that a lot. But I carry a knife every day, and most of what I'm going to use a knife this size, which is legal for me, and you need to check if it is for you before you decide to do something like that, but I carry it mostly for food. And that's what I use a knife for most of the time, my fixed knife. And my most other used knife, other than using it for food, is a Spyderco UK pen knife slip joint. And we can get into another video someday about why, if you carry more than one knife, a knife like this, I believe, is superior to your tactical folders if you carry more than one. And that's just a different story altogether. But in comparing these two knives to each other, I was always very impressed with this one. But a little bit along the lines of this one, because of this size of it, this intermediate size. It's not a machete, and it's not a little EDC like your Becker Escobar right here, which is another knife that, since I've got scales for it, I really appreciate. In $10.95 high carbon, around $30, $30 to $40 from K-Bar, and then the scales are like an extra $16. And I was surprised to see they actually came from K-Bar. I just bought them off eBay. I thought somebody was making a bunch of Polypro scales, and they were actually K-Bar scales, so why don't they just put them with the knife? It makes it so much better. And they do that for another knife, which falls into the same range. And this is a bogus comparison, because I actually have the BK-15. I'm going to have to go get it now, which is a full flat ground between 4 to 5 inch blades. This knife right here comes with these Polypro scales that are totally removable, and they have another color of them also. Great comparison. This knife, high carbon, is the only thing that might be a deterrent on this knife. But it was the 1095 Crovan from K-Bar has been very easy and simple to sharpen and resharpen, and quite durable for me so far with knives like this, and then the old Necker, the BK-11 that you might be familiar with. But let me go get that other one real quick, and then I'm just going to splice all this together anyway. I'll be right back. Okay, well, I'm back, and I grabbed the other knife that I was going to talk about, was the BK-15, and I wanted to get more back into talking about the idea behind this intermediate size, and why in certain situations I wouldn't want to have a giant large blade on me, but would rather have one like this because, and it's just simply because of carry. And a lot of people don't even like carrying them this big. They don't even like carrying them as big as that Becker knife right there, but I do, especially in the outdoors, especially barbecuing and camping and cooking out and having fun in the outdoors. I don't want to be run up against something that is going to take more time than it has to. If I just had a knife, it takes care of so many problems, and it really, really has. And not necessarily bad guys or bears in the woods or anything like that either. And I see a lot. I know a lot of people evaluate their blades on destructive testing, what it can take and what kind of a bear it could bring down, and if it could reach the vital organs. But that's not really important. But what's important to me is being able to carry it, and especially on this intermediate and even on larger knives, I prefer a thinner grip. I prefer thinner blade stock. It slices better, it cuts better. If you use it like a knife and you don't wang on it with a big friggin' piece of wood or a hammer or something, it works excellent this way and cuts effortlessly, and you don't have to sharpen it all day to get it back to that sharpness, and you don't have to hit it on a belt sander the very first time you get it from the factory, because obviously when they build them like that, they want them to be more durable, and they don't always sharpen them correctly. Phil Wilson may be reserved just for fish, fowl, and food, honestly. Maybe zipping through some plastic, you know how that is. And really, throughout the whole collection, I got some Essie knives too, if you guys are familiar with those. I could have laid them down in the comparison just as well, and I just feel that this Becker knife right here, this is the one. I think 65 to 75 bucks. I hope that I've been in frame with most of my comparison and review here, and not covering up the knives so you guys can't see them, because really that's a lot of why I have done this review, is so that I can get an initial impression. And honestly, I'm really impressed with the Phil Wilson from Spyderco. I was very impressed with this BK-15 also. You can see the drastic, I mean, these knives are so similar. They are so similar in every way. I didn't even think about it. This is the only knife that I had to run back and get out of the collection box back there of these intermediate sized knives. And awesome that it stacks up so well next to the Phil Wilson. But let's, in closing, because I don't want to go on forever, I don't even know how long, it's probably been 10 minutes or so, I want to talk about the price on the Phil Wilson was out of this freaking world. And now that I have it in hand, and I am so satisfied with it, even juggling the rest of my knife collection, okay, is that I'm bummed out about how much I had to pay for this knife, man. Seriously, and I don't mind paying a lot for knives and stuff, but I've got handmade stuff from the United States from makers for less than this. I know it's CPM S90V. The grind is fantastic. The edge is so evenly applied. You know, it's mind-blowing. It's got the little signature on it. Taichung, Taiwan, not just made in Taiwan. I have some other stuff from Taiwan that I paid a pretty penny for. Cold steel, extra large Espada. And some stuff from SOG. You know, over $100. And been totally satisfied with that. Maybe in use, I'll find the CPM S90V holds up to my expectations, and certainly in fit and finish. You know, just in handling this knife, this is going to be such an enjoyable knife to carry, that if you really only need one for your fish bucket, don't get that damn Phil Wilson, man. Don't treat that like that. You know, get something like this if you're only going to use it for the fish bucket, or when you go to grab your deer bag. I'm telling you right now, you're going to be flushing your money, unless you just got a butt pile of money from no reason. You just need to flush it. Don't get this Phil Wilson for that bait bucket, dudes. This is high quality cutlery for the aficionado, with lack of a better word. This is so buttery smooth. This handle is so smooth. Other than that, cutting capability, I mean, we'll see. I'm not going to put it to the ultimate test. Let me bust out one more comparison, because I think it's the best comparison. I showed the Outdoorsman light in the Buck 119 Special, but basically all three of these. And you're going to see a lot of trailing point skinners that look a lot like this Marbles design. Case makes one. All kinds of knockoff companies make them. But if you're truly looking for the ultimate high profile braggity brag of all skinning fish fowl knives, look no further than the Spyderco Phil Wilson. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later. I'm about to go into the video. Thin. Thin is in.